Hey, this is Dustin Sky. In this video I'm going to show you how I make a ton of tiny fog-filled bubbles with one of my foggers. This is the bubble solution I recommend for that kind of thing. This is Gazillion Premium. It's really thick compared to any other bubble solution I've ever tried, the commercial stuff. And it works really well for this particular thing. You don't have to have a giant bottle of it, but that's what I've got. You'll also need a fogger. This one is the Z Nano 2 3.5 milliliter, but any fogger will do. It is important to have a skinny fog tube. This really doesn't work with the fat fog tubes. The velocity of the air coming out of the fat fog tubes is too slow to make this work right. Okay, the three most important things to make this work well is the right bubble solution, which I've covered, skinny tube, and then the other is the technique. And it's really pretty simple. The idea is that you dip your skinny tube into the bubble solution, you start blowing before you add any fog, and then as the bubbles are streaming away, you start filling them with fog. If you try to make a bubble with just fog without a little bit of air in there first, it tends to pop the bubble film. So by starting with just air and then adding fog, you'll have better success. At least that's been my experience. So you'll want to have the tip angled down a little bit. I hope you can see those. Maybe I'll move around to another location with a little less wind. Okay, I've switched up my location a little bit. A little less wind right here. You really want to dip your skinny fog tube pretty far down into the solution. What you're doing is creating a reservoir on the inside and outside of the tube that feeds the bubbles. You have to play with how much force to use as you're blowing. That makes a big difference. It can work really well. You got to practice with the force of your blow. Use the proper solution. Angle your tube down a little bit. And pulse your fire button. Now I'm going to go ahead and try it with this other bubble solution I've got. This is Max Bubbles with two X's. It's substantially thinner in consistency than the Gazillion there, but we'll see how it goes. Well, it seems to work okay. Yeah, that works all right. Seems like max bubbles works pretty well for this particular application. You can vary the size of the bubbles by how fast you blow or how hard you blow. Obviously, blowing slower gives you larger bubbles. You're likely to get less bubbles per dip with larger bubbles because you're using more bubble fluid per bubble. Anyway, that's how you make a ton of little fog-filled bubbles with one of my fogger kits. Now, one thing that people sometimes struggle with is making a bubble and then putting fog inside of it without creating another small bubble inside, and that's super simple. You just you create a bubble, and then if you want to put fog inside of this bubble, what you need to do is break the bubble film that's inside the tip. First, what you can do is either blow out, like I did to break it, but then sometimes you'll have when you put the tip back into the bubble, you'll find that the film is reformed. So what you do is instead of blowing out, you draw in with your mouth like you're drinking something through a straw. Make a quick inward motion. Don't use your lungs in case there's any fog that could make you cough. And that'll allow you to make a fog-filled bubble without a smaller bubble inside of it. All right, I think that covers it for my tips and tricks on some basic bubble stuff. Happy bubbling.